Hello everyone, and welcome to the staff and tutor introduction for Accudemia 7.0. Thank you for coming out to take your time to become familiar with the update. This is really focused on our tutors and staff who'll be working with us in the center. If we have some admins on, that's okay too. There is a little bit of information there that'll pertain to you guys if you want to give them access to other areas. But let's take a quick look at some of the things that we're going to be covering. Of course, over the past few months, our development team, support staff, and client beta testers have been working hard to make it an awesome update here. We have some new features for both the admins and the staff that'll make your day-to-day tasks a lot easier and less of a hassle. So some of the things regarding the staff and tutor, we have a newer, intuitive, and kind of simplified layout and menu. In that layout and menu, we've also redesigned the appointment scheduling process to make that a lot easier for both the admins and the staff here. Some options that you may want as a tutor, but you may not have access to, would be our new Manage Center screen. You may only have a view option in there where you can see who's signed in, who's waiting, and the people that had recently signed in or out. So we can kind of look into that and see what options you can get as a tutor to make that a little bit more useful for you. Also, the ability to sign in folks through a kiosk or a sign-in station. That may be something else that admins would want to give to you. And then, of course, from the update, we still have the same reliability that you've become used to, and some new support options, though, like role-based support. So we've tried to focus on each different type of user, what information will be most pertinent to them. All right, starting off with the updated menu, we have now moved the left side navigation menu just to the top. So you're going to have some of the same areas that you're used to seeing, like the center attendance, the reports, if you're an admin, administration. But we do have a new option here with like the little quick menu options. And it has things like to set up a new appointment, sign students in through a sign-in station, and we'll kind of go into more details on those in the future, as well as your personal options that used to be at the top are now just kind of consolidated in its own menu. And as a tutor, you're going to also be able to sign in and sign out if it's enabled for your center. This freed up space on the left side. So now on the left side, we have our search and filter options. So if you're trying to minimize what you're seeing on the screen, you actually go ahead and fill in on this screen, for instance, we have the user account. So you could fill in the student's first and last name, maybe filter on only students and only active students. So you have all those options on the left. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, and now that I'm logged in as a tutor, you can see I do have a few extra sections that were given by my admin. So I do have some administration options, like the ability to create and sign-in stations. And then I have my center attendance. You should have these sections like the ability to create new appointments or view your existing appointments, as well as these quick options here. Like I was saying on their personal options, if you're not signed in the center and you're coming in and you want to collect your work hours, you can go ahead and click on this your signed out option. It'll ask you which center. You can pick from the various centers that your school has in Accudemia, and then just click sign in. And then it shows you're signed in. So that way you can start, helping folks out, as well as things like if your school allows you to set up your schedule. We have the My Schedule here. You click that and go ahead and set any schedule that you need for that semester. And then on the left side, you can see, we always have these search options, and it can just basically change the view of what you're seeing on the screen. So there's multiple screens that have that. If I go to any of these other areas, like the Manage Center, I could see, maybe I only want to see who's waiting, or maybe that and who's signed in. So I can go ahead and see that. I'm going to go ahead and remove some of these folks out of line real quick. All right. The next thing is our two different appointment options that we have now. And they're really the same, but you have two different ways to get to it. So the first way is to go under the quick and new appointment. When I do that, it kind of brings up an overlay on the same screen that I'm working on. So as soon as I'm done, let's say I set up my appointment here, I can just click back over and go back to what I was working on. Now, if I go through the traditional menu options, like under the appointments and then new appointment option, I'm going to see this screen, and this would actually be the same process if I did the quick menu as well. But this is just going through the new process. So first you're going to select your center or your service. So you can see here I've typed tutoring, and I'll go ahead and click on like course tutoring, for instance. As you're going through these steps, it's going to be building a summary of what you've selected so far. So then you search for and type in the next one. This is going to be the course. You select that. All right, if you do have some of these options disabled, then you're not going to see every option in this list. Like, if you don't have them pick an instructor, or you don't have them pick a course, maybe you're an advising center, so they just pick from services. It'll just skip those steps and go to the next step if you don't have that in your process. But once you get done selecting all the options, it's going to take you to a list of all your available tutors or advisors, and at this point I just have to click and pick on a time slot for an available tutor. It's going to allow me to add any kind of notes about that session that I need to ask, and then hit confirm. And once that's done, I'll be able to create another appointment, or just kind of exit out of that and go to the next thing. So let's take a look at both ways to create appointments now. So you can see I'm still signed in as the tutor. And this, I actually just clicked the link that took me directly here, but if I was trying to get to this, I'd go to my center attendance, appointments, create new appointment, and that brings me right to this screen. So any recently seen students will appear here. I'm going to go ahead and just type in a student number that I know, and I need to set up an appointment for them, so I'm going to select that. Here I can either search for the center or the service I'm looking for, and this is really kind of cool because if, let's say, multiple centers offer tutoring, it's going to show me all the centers that are there if I just type the service. But in this case, I only have the one center, so I can go ahead and select that service. So it actually selected the center and the service in that one step, so it helps speed up this process. Next thing, they're going to see their courses. We'll go ahead and pick math. And because there was only one instructor, I think it skipped that step, or I don't have them selected either way. Now that I'm at this point, I'm just looking at the available times, the dates that I'd like to schedule an appointment, and I just have to click on one of the blocks. Here's my notes field, so we can add anything, or if I don't have any notes, I'll go ahead and just hit confirm. So it's all done, and like I said, you can create another, or I can go ahead and go off to some other area of the center. If I were to do that through the quick menu, let's say I'm working in the Manage Center screen here, and I'm viewing, who's waiting, who's signed in. Maybe I'm updating my session logs with notes or anything about how that session went. While I'm doing that, I could actually use this to go ahead and sign up. Maybe the student needs a follow-up appointment with me, so I could actually click New Appointment from the quick menu. And once I bring that up, you can kind of see it's the same process here. So we're going to start off with the student's ID, or I can even type in their name. So either way, it will find that student. Once I select them, we're going to go through the same process, and I can pick the actual center here first. It's just going to list the services now. All right, and we're going to do math again just to make it easy here. And then finally, make sure we pick a time slot with myself. So let's say 8 a.m. All right, and I'm all done after I hit confirm here. So same process, and I could go through it again if I wanted to. But that's the updated appointment scheduler that we have in 7.0. Now, if you're have admin access, you can actually still access some of those old schedulers if you want to. But we've tried to kind of make that a little simpler, so hopefully you'll get familiar with that and make that your main way of doing appointments now. So now we're going to cover some of the features that you may want as a tutor that you don't actually have access to, and it just depends if the admins want to kind of share this access. It just depends on what things that you do for the center. So some things about the Manage Center screen, though, it combines 3 screens into one that used to be in the old system. So we had the intake system, the Who's In screen, and session logs. Those all used to be in different areas. So now, instead of clicking around to each of those different areas, you can actually just go to Manage Centers and see all of these different things. So while you're in that section, of course, you can manage or add a student to the waiting line. You can actually sign out a student from the list of people that are signed in, and just really help out in the center a lot. So some other features here is we have an auto refresh. So this screen will constantly be updated. Usually about every 10 seconds, you'll see if anybody was added to the waiting list, if you use the waiting list. If you're not, you'd see if anybody signed in to get help by you. It'll tell you who they're here to see on the far right, and then the student's name on the left here. Now, another neat feature is, let's say I just had a session with them and the student had recently signed out, but I forgot, oh yeah, I needed to enter comments about how that session went. I do have the ability to do that here from the screen as well. I can do it while they're signed in, or it does stay up for about an hour after they've left as well here. If you do need to enable waiting line options or anything like that, this is one of the reasons why you may need some admin access on here, because you have to be an admin in order to enable that wait list. So we have that right here in the settings symbol. And then also you can create a manual log. Now these would have to be, like I said, extra permissions given. Some of the schools want students just to sign in through the normal SignIn station, but this would be like if a student forgot to sign in and you had to create that sign in for them, or the case where maybe you recorded a session manually on paper and you need to go ahead and add that log so they get credit for coming in the center. So let's go ahead and explore those features. So under center attendance, I have that new Manage Center screen. Now you might have just a view only access, and if you click on these buttons, they might say, you don't have access to create a new log, or it might not even be there. Or maybe if you click these, it just won't let you do anything with them. But there are some rules, and I'll go over that in a second on what the admins can give you to get access to that. But let's go ahead and we're going to create a new log here. So we're going to assign a student in. And under the first option, I'm going to just select our center. It should default to the center you've been using, but if not, you can actually change that. Then I can search for my student again, and then search for my name as the tutor advisor. And then if we know their instructor, you can fill that out, the course that they're coming and getting help with. And then of course the service. Now if I don't have that many services, this is actually kind of helpful. I can click this little magnifying glass and I'll see the top 10. Now if you have more than 10, you still probably want to search for them by typing it in, but I'm going to go ahead and just click course tutoring here, and it timestamps what time you came in from off the computer. So when I came into the screen it was 1:16, so it's going to put that in there. And if I'm still working with them, I can choose to have them still signed in, or let's say it was they really came in at 10 and they already left the center, so I could actually create the session from here and just say how long they were here, either in minutes or the exact time that they left. But I'm going to leave them signed in and go ahead and create that log. So you can see they're automatically signed in. They bypass the waiting line because we're actually just creating a log of them actually signing in there. Now, if let's say we don't use the waiting line in my area, under this settings icon, I could actually disable that, and that whole section would go away. Now, you do have to have admin access, of course, to do that. You can see the waiting line disappear. If to enable it, it's just as easy. I just click enable now, and now the waiting line appears. And that's really just going to change that process of how the students sign in. Either they're going to be given a wait or they're not, based on that setting. Okay, and then this takes us to the next thing that you may want, is the ability to sign in students maybe into the waiting line through a sign-in station or a sign-in kiosk. So we have that option available through the quick menu. You can do quick sign-in station, or if you're given admin access, under administration sign-in stations. There's a really neat feature where I don't have to actually log out of the system to sign in the student. When I click that quick option, for instance, it'll actually bring up the sign-in station. I can sign in the student and still go back to the Manage Center screen to do any other notes or things that I need on that session. So we can see we already have somebody signed in. So I'm going to go ahead, and this time we're going to just put them in the waiting queue because I'm already working with them, but maybe there's no one else available, so we have to put them in the wait line. So I'm going to go ahead and go to quick sign-in station here. And like I said, from here I could actually just sign them in, or using this awesome option up here, I can actually just set up my computer as a kiosk and log out of the system so they could sign in themselves. But if I'm working in the system and it's my computer, I'm going to just sign them in from here, ask them for their ID. Okay, and so we have the student here. They're going to pick tutoring, whatever they're in for. All right, and pick a tutor they'd like to see. And that's it. You just have to confirm the options and they should be signed in. Just letting them know that they're in line. And you can let them know that if you're signing them in. And if we go back over here, you can see that they're actually logged in and waiting to be seen. While you're in here, you can actually manage that. If, let's say, I'm now another tutor here, I could actually go ahead and select the student and then sign them in, or remove them from the line if they leave. Whenever I select that, I do have different options here. So while I'm working with the student, I could sign them out, put them back in the line. Maybe they needed to see someone else. That's what that option's for. And either that or create a session assessment, which is kind of like a survey of how that session went, and or create comments about that session. Now, if I put them back in line, I have a few options here. I can either say I want to keep the log that we worked on, like maybe we worked a little bit, but they need to go back in line to see someone else, or I can discard it. So that's kind of a neat thing there. And then I can also change the tutor that they're waiting for. So if maybe, they see me, but I need to have them see someone else, so we can change that and then keep that sign in and put them back in line. So they also went into the recently signed out, if you notice that, because I did work with them for about 6 minutes ago. They signed in. and they're back in line now to see Janice. And that way, if I needed to create any comments or fill out the session assessment, I can still do that there. You know, whatever comments you want to add, it'll put your name and timestamp it there. All right, so now this part's kind of for admins. If your tutors or staff, you might want to just, you know, share these things with them. I will have notes from this PowerPoint and everything, so you can give that to them if you want. But these are the things that admins would actually need to give that tutor in order to have certain rights in the system. So the things that we've actually seen them be able to do here now is the edit session logs, and that basically allows the tutors to manually sign in a student. So if you want them to be able to do that, that's something that they would need. That's one of those permissions in there. Also, if you want them to be able to manage the intake system, we have, I think there's intake system admin, and there's also another one that's a little lesser of a role. It's intake system manager. Admin actually can enable or disable the waiting line. I think the manager can just manage the queue. So either one of those would actually work. For the sign-in stations, where they could actually sign in a student through the normal sign-in station process or set up a computer as a sign-in station, that would be something as well that might be helpful. So these are really just the steps. Like I said, I can provide those after the meeting. And I guess if we wanted to take a look at that real quick, I'm going to log in as an admin here. So we'll log out. And I'm just going to log in with my admin credentials now. What I would do is go to administration user accounts. I would look up my tutor. So I could filter on only tutors here on the left side. And let's say it was Janice here. I would go ahead and manage their, actually we'll just click on her name so that we can edit her. And in here, I'm going to go to the security section, make sure that they're a system user, and go through all the permissions here, but we're going to find those ones that we needed. So I think it was create sign-in stations, so they could do that. Edit session log, so they could sign in a student manually or create the session log. And then intake system administrator here. Okay, and then once we have those done, you can see there's a long list here. You could actually give them extra permissions if you wanted. We'll just save those changes and be done. And now Janice would actually be able to help and do those things in my center. All right, and if you're actually in Accudemia now, you've actually already experienced the update. We did release it on the 23rd of December of last year. So after winter break, you know, you come back in, it's already changed. So, but we have been testing this over the last 6 months or so. So one of the things that we tried to do was keep all of your permission sets and everything the same. So if the tutors had access to that, or the staff had access to that section, they're still going to have it after the fact, and you just have to do your normal things like, I don't know if you manage your assignments or your schedule as a tutor, but if that's something that they have you do, then you're still going to continue to do that. But they shouldn't have changed what they can and cannot access, though. Something neat about the update is we've actually made a responsive design. So it doesn't matter what type of device you're on, if it's a laptop, tablet, or phone. As you can see here, it'll actually respond and change the look and feel of it. You're still going to have all the same buttons and everything. They just might appear in a different order. You can see when it goes to the smaller screens, they've put the menu kind of at the top, just more compact, and made it look good regardless on what device you're working on. The next thing is we've also, like I said, created role-specific guides. So if you're a tutor or staff, you have your own section there, and anything that you need to know about the system as a tutor, you can go ahead and learn that information. So this is the website out here. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat window. But like I said, I'll share it as well after the session. And if you click on the tutor section here, you can see you have a quick start guide. Goes through some of the basics of what you have in the system. You have a full reference manual. This is topic by topic, A to Z of everything that you can do in the system. We have some frequently asked questions, troubleshooting, knowledge base type topics that are topic specific that you can search through. We also have some online videos as well as a way to provide feedback. So if you see any kind of improvement ideas or something like that that you'd like to see the system have, those are all available. And if you have some other roles that make you more of like an admin, you can always click here and go back and explore some of those admin roles. The other neat thing is up in the top left, we have a search. So whatever section you're working in, like if I was in the tutor section, it should search for just topics that are in here. So if I have like a specific need that I want to find, I can find that easily through that search bar. So that's pretty much all I have for the presentation part. I'm going to go ahead and open up the mics for any questions. So here we go. Also, if you prefer to just type it in the chat, I can go ahead and try to answer it through that as well. And I did get a question here through the chat. So I have someone asking about, can they cancel appointments through that same system? And the answer is yes. So right now, you can see I'm logged in as the tutor still here. So if I go to center attendance appointments, I still can view all of my appointments from here. I can change those if I have the right permission there. But yeah, so I can come in here and just hit cancel on this too as well. And if I do want to show those canceled appointments, I just have to, on the left side, click show canceled, and you can actually see those ones that were canceled. Okay, and I think that's the last question that I have, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining us for this webinar. Appreciate you taking the time to learn this information. Have a great rest of your day.